A pleasant day to all. Thank you for joining us at the Chai Academy, and thank you for your interest in study. You know, studying is just it is really, especially when you study a concept as opposed to just studying a novel, reading a novel. But when you really study, it's the best thing for the brain. It's the best thing for to keep one sharp, etc. So today's topic, which comes under the general banner of Jewish ethics and beliefs, is called "When Bad Things Happen to Good People." Now we know in the 1980s, Rabbi Harold Kushner, who lost a child. I believe the kid was on a bike, tricycle, or something. I'm not sure. I take that back. But he lost a child, and he wrote a book, "When Bad Things Happen to Good People." What's fascinating is nobody remembers the name of his book correctly. What they remember is Kushner's book of why bad things happen to good people. So, hello, Eileen. Long time. So he wrote a book, "When Bad Things." He didn't write a book, "Why Bad Things," because it's completely preposterous for him to answer the question why bad things happen. It happens to be that his book itself would be very much inconsistent with a traditional view of Judaism. It's what he posits, but it's actually not. Traditional Judaism, I did not say Orthodox Judaism, I said traditional Judaism, Jewish values, etc. It would be considered a flawed book and a flawed thought process. So, but neither Kushner, nor myself, nor the Rebbe, who can answer that question, why bad things happen to good people? If I was able to answer that question of why bad things happen, I wouldn't live on Deer Park Avenue. I would live on Park Avenue. I would be, owning a $50 million penthouse and many luxury cars, like David Letterman. But and this is the reason why. Because if I knew why bad things happen to bad people, if I know these type of things, I would be God, right? I would be the man in charge. In fact, there's actually a Hasidic story with a bunch of Hasidic teachers, mentors, rabbis sitting together, and the first rabbi said, if I were God, I would make no hunger in the world. And the other rabbi said, if I were God, there would be no anti-Semitism. And the other rabbi said, if I were God, I would make sure there's no, cancer. And the last rabbi said, I've been listening to you all. If I were God, I would make the world exactly as God made it. And that is the correct answer. That is correct, because if you think you're better than God, we got a problem. If you think you can run this world better than God, then that's a real problem. I mean, that comes under the banner of extremely arrogant individual. So, but there's this concept called theodicy, where basically so many of us are trying to not only just figure out what's going on, but trying to vindicate God for all the bad doings in the world, right? So the most famous story, and by the way, they say it may never have happened, but it's in the Tanakh, it's in the book of the prophets, and the story speaks volumes. The stories of Job. Right? So Job was obsessed with vindicating God. He was obsessed. He wanted to know exactly why, what, so he can vindicate God. And I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Job, but Job basically, he lost his spouse. He lost his children. He lost his business. Terrible life. And then he got these horrific boils. Each step of the way, he goes, why God? Why God? Why God? Every negative thing that happened to him. And each child he lost, he says, just tell me why. Just tell me why. I'm not, I'm not criticizing you. I just need to know why. The end of the book, the book of Job, God appears to Job in a thunderstorm, in a whirlwind, and there was a lot of wind blowing and clouds and smoke, and it was turmoil. And God appears to him, and God says, if you don't know how the world was created, if you don't know so many things about life, like I always say, I do not know what goes into a hot dog. I don't know. I don't know what goes into a Tylenol. But if you don't know things about creation, how on earth are you supposed to know what makes me tick? What goes into me? What my ingredient is? So God was saying, right, you don't know everything, and because you don't know everything, because you're mortal, you have a finite knowledge and a finite understanding. How on earth are you supposed to understand me? And what's fascinating is once Job heard this from God, not an answer to his question why. Right? Because the answer to his question why was essentially because. Yeah, you don't know what, so I'm just telling you because. So the fact that God appeared to him, he was comforted. It's just an amazing concept. Once he developed a relationship with God, he was completely comforted. So it wasn't he was never given an answer. Not given an answer at all, and he understood. He understood there is no answer. And anybody, by the way, who tries to offer an answer of why this, why that, as we'll talk, is really off base. I mean, I just ask a person who says, that I want to know because I understand so much, and I could be on jeopardy, right? So ask him exactly, how something that's so simple that we see in our everyday life. Ask him how that works, right? Ask him ask him how does a jet engine work as opposed to a propeller. And I think it'd be hard pressed to give you an answer. At least I know I would. So it is. So God told him because, and Job was comforted. Now we have to divide suffering. There's two types of suffering, right? There's God-made suffering, and there's man-made suffering, right? There's a suffering that God makes, and the suffering that human beings make. Right, so and so we have to split it into two. Right? So man-made suffering is actually very easy to answer. Right, and it's truly presumptuous to blame it on God. Right, and it's not a challenge. It's easy to answer. Because a basic tenet of Judaism, a fundamental, is that God gave man free will, and therefore, if God would stop, every evil thing that occurs, and no evil can occur, that essentially takes away our free will. And you can ask a question. But why did God give the propensity to have evil, right? It should have just so So the answer is God needed to maintain free will. In order for us to have proper free will, we have to be able to choose good or choose evil. And it's written in the Bible, by the way. The Torah says that the Torah is life, and choose it. Now, anytime you get to choose something means you get to choose something. So the fact that a person chooses to be evil, the fact that a person chooses to steal from someone else, the fact that you have I got one of these scam phishing emails today from PayPal, which they didn't even spell correct, but they choose to do this. They choose to do this. You're going to blame God over that? Can't blame God over that. That's a moral choice that they chose. So that's an easy one to answer, right? Why are human beings evil? Because God gave us free will. Why did He give the human being the propensity to be evil? Free will. I think that the question that can be asked and is asked, which is, by the way, naive, the question that is asked, which is probably a better question, is, but it's still not a great question, is why didn't God stop the Holocaust? Now that the Holocaust happened, right? The Holocaust happened. Why didn't God stop it? God intervened with Egypt. Right? He took the Hebrews out of Egypt, as we read. Hi, Don. He took the Hebrews out of Egypt, and He made 10 plagues, and miraculously split the sea, and he took millions and millions of people out of Egypt, the place that was the Iron Curtain, literally, when nobody could leave, and millions of people left. And He proved who's boss. Turned the water into blood, and there's frogs, and there's wild animals, and there's hail which has fire inside coming from heaven, and there was killing of the first one. There was this odd darkness and locusts, etc. So God intervened there. Why didn't God intervene at the Holocaust? Intervene. You did it once. You did it once. Do it again. So there's no answer. We don't know why God intervenes, why God doesn't intervene. But I'll tell you, it's a naive question. God did intervene in the Holocaust. Just like, very similar, He intervened in Egypt. In Egypt, did God intervene? You know how many generations, how many years the Hebrews were slaves, beaten, killed, the kids thrown into the Nile, and just cruel and bitter treatment. The Holocaust, the camps that were in Egypt, it went on for 210 years. Right? So, did God intervene? Yeah, eventually He did intervene. But 200 years, generation after generation after generation of suffering, eventually God intervened. Well, guess what? The Holocaust, God did also intervene. It stopped, right? The Germans got beaten, etc., and the Holocaust stopped. So just like He didn't intervene in Egypt right away, and He allowed us to suffer for whatever reason, so too in the Holocaust God didn't intervene. So it is, this is God's way. This is God's way. Now, in an attempt, and this is a mistake many religious Jews make, so many religious Jews make, in an attempt for theodicy, in an attempt to vindicate God, an attempt to vindicate God that it's not God's fault. So some you won't ever find me saying it, and you won't find the Lubavitcher Rebbe ever saying it. The Lubavitcher Rebbe used to actually spit when he used to have to address this, right? But you'll find the people who say, it's because of the secular Jews that didn't keep Shabbat, that didn't keep kosher, that didn't keep the Torah, etc. Now, you know how misguided that is? You know what a horrible, horrific, hurtful, inappropriate statement that is to make? Right? So because somebody didn't keep Shabbat, therefore a little baby was thrown into a gas chamber. Or a little baby was killed with a Nazi's bayonet. Does that make any sense? Does that justify? So it's completely unacceptable behavior. And I once heard the Rebbe say that if you're going to stop blaming the fellow Jews for the Holocaust because they didn't keep this, that, the other, he says then you probably need to get a sanity check, and you probably need to reevaluate who you are as a person. Right? Gas chamber because this one didn't keep Shabbat. And by the way, if you think about it, as irreligious as Jews were in Eastern Europe, they were nowhere nearly as ignorant as Jews were in America at that time. Jews in America lived their life. Just lived their life freely. Freedom. It was on the contrary. If you go to the Holocaust in particular, the mass amount of Jews were killed were religious Jews. Right? In fact, if you ever go to Yad Vashem and you take a look at the country by country, how many Jews were killed, you'll find something truly, truly fascinating. You'll find that the least amount of Jews were in Germany. It's a very small percentage. Poland had the most. And what's interesting to note, in Poland, out of the 3 million killed in Poland, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a statistician, I don't know, but I would venture to guess majority, 2 million, were religious Jews. Maybe more, probably more. In Germany, it was a very small number. They got out. Where did they go? America. Right? So for a person to say, yes, the Holocaust happened because of irreligious Jews, well, buddy, wake up and smell the hummus. The amount of Jews that were killed by Hitler were religious Jews. So for a religious Jew to blame it on an irreligious Jew is warped, is off, it's nonsensical, it's illogical, and once again, it's offensive. Right? Because it's ridiculous. I can actually ridicule the statement that somebody makes. By far and large, the religious Jews were killed in the Holocaust. By far and large, irreligious Jews, secular Jews, Jews not observant Jews were not killed. So you're going to make the connection that it was because of secular Jews. You got killed. All right. So so you want to try and find a reason for God and to say, okay, well, Hitler, it was God's ally. It's insane. It's wrong on so many fronts. Why? Hitler was a bad man. He was a nut job. He was an anti-Semite. He was cruel and vicious, and he had so many people that allowed this to go on, and they're all bad. Every single darn last one of them. Anybody that didn't stop the Holocaust is evil and cruel. If you didn't know about it, you live somewhere in Nebraska, okay. But if you are FDR, yeah, you're off. So irreligious Jews. Then you have other Jews who try and place the blame not on God, they try and vindicate God, that the reason the Holocaust happened is because of Zionism. You remained in Europe and you didn't migrate to Israel. Well, first of all, just because you didn't listen to Herzl, therefore you deserve death. You deserve to be gassed to death. I mean, it's stupid. It is childish. It's elementary logic. And secondly, you know how many try to get out, try to go to Israel and couldn't. I think of the Atelier, right? The ship that couldn't even get Exodus, right? Couldn't even get to Israel, right? Just read your history. They tried, and they didn't, and they were killed. So they tried to follow Herzl's plan, but they couldn't. They were killed. Just because you did not leave Europe in time doesn't mean you're worthy of death. And anybody who tries to vindicate God because of this is wrong, is morally corrupt. And I will never back down. Because it's once again, it's hurtful, it's offensive. Right? My family members were killed by Hitler because they didn't manage to get to Israel, or they didn't see themselves running to Israel. Do you know there are some rabbis who saw the writing of the wall and should have said, get out, get out, get out, let's get out. Correct. But there are other rabbis who saw the writing of the wall and stayed deliberately, because they said, if I leave, if I manage to get a visa and I manage to get out and I leave my flock, is that fair? So because they chose not to get out for noble reasons, or somebody didn't get out because they didn't want to leave their spouse and kids, they didn't get to Israel. Is that worthy of death? So if you hear anybody say it's because of the secular Jews, or if you hear anybody say it's because of anti-Zionist Jews, they didn't, right? It's just foolhardy. It's nonsense. It's hurtful. And just tell them shut up. Probably don't even debate them. Here's a great question just posed by Don, right? Why? Right? The question is why, right? Why we have holidays? We have holidays. We like to eat, but the question is why? We brought monotheism. We brought a moral consciousness to the world. Why are we attacked? And I think the answer is because we brought a moral consciousness into the world. Not everybody wants to have morality in their face, shoved down their throat. So when they see a Jew brought to the world the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, monotheism, the 7 Noahide laws, right? And where you gotta keep it's you can get angry. Well, I want to live the life of hedonism, and you're telling me I can't live the life of hedonism. Well, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to do what I want, and if and therefore I'd rather not you be in my face as a moral consciousness, and get the hell out. And then we became the underdog, and then we became the punching bag, and then we became, just and Hitler was brilliant, right? Hitler was brilliant. I mean, he's a stupid pig, but he was brilliant. Where he said, you know what, I can build my economy on these people. I can build my economy on this scapegoat. And they say don't kill. I say do kill, and I say kill them. So it's not too hard to figure out what happened. I think what's harder to figure out is how on earth do you get so many people to follow you, country after country after country after country after country, nation after nation after nation. How that happened, I don't know. How do you get in America when they were finally told? Why didn't they bomb the tracks to Auschwitz? I mean, we know why. They wanted to keep the Nazis on the front, but morally wise, that I'll never understand. I'll never understand. So, human suffering, free will, right? And that's the limit where you can vindicate God. You can't vindicate God for any, it happened because you did this, or happened because you did that. The human suffering is God gave human being free will, and the human being, unfortunately, chose evil. And you gotta believe, by the way, you gotta believe Hitler wasn't brought up, he was dragged up. You gotta believe that Benito Mussolini saw that by following Hitler, he would have more power than he ever thought he could have. Right? You got to believe that the communists, the Stalins and the Lenins, said to themselves, "OMG!" Right? If we make society equal and everybody's got to be equal, that doesn't mean these laws apply to us. It means it applies to them. So it was a power grab. It was a complete power grab. It's very similar, by the way, that if I had insider trading, I would be arrested and I would be put in jail, where the rules of insider trading do not apply to Congress. It's a disgrace. So the communists said, wow, we can become wealthy and suppress the multitudes. What an incredible con that was. And I was once called to the SEC. Someone told me, buy this stock, it's a good stock. I bought that stock. And I made a couple grand, I sold it. A year later, I was called to the SEC. Why'd you buy that stock? I said, well, that stock is so-and-so told me to buy it. Who is that so-and-so? It's the person. All right. Why did he tell you? I have no idea. Do you know what the stock does? No, he just told me it's a good buy. All right. Anyway, I wasn't who they were looking after. My 2000 or whatever I made, that wasn't who they were looking for. But Congress, yeah, talk and buy, you can. So human suffering, I think we've answered. Natural suffering, right? Is much harder. Natural suffering, which is really what Kushner was struggling with, is a lot harder to answer. Because if illnesses only happen to bad people, if somebody got sick and they died, and they were just a rotten Stalin, right, had a stroke, and he died, right? You could say, hey, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I'm so happy Stalin is dead. And in fact, the day Stalin died, there was celebration in the streets, even in the United States. Stalin died, right? He died, he had a stroke, etc. So, but it doesn't work that way. Illnesses, sickness seems to be indiscriminate, right? Natural catastrophe, natural death. It could be an earthquake. It could be a tsunami. It could be a collapse because of a strong wind of a house that fell. It could be lightning. It could be cancer, God forbid. It could be Alzheimer's. It could be COVID. COVID is probably, by the way, I can blame human beings, but that's good and that's bad. That's indiscriminate, right? It's indiscriminate. So what do you do with that? So, very tough question to answer, and I think that based on the class we gave recently, I think if you believe in God, you at least have what to grapple with. If you're an atheist, you're baffled. Just arbitrary? Oh my goodness. I don't want to live in an arbitrary world. Right? But if you believe in God, and Judaism does believe in God, then you can say, I don't know. But at the very least, Hashlech Yehovcha, I cast my burdens. I don't know. But God, there better be a reason. Right? There better be a reason for all of this nonsense. Why this good person suffered. Why this bad person prospered. And by the way, the bad person can prosper also because of free will. But why did this wicked person live 97 years and this good person died at 36? Why? We want to know God, but at least we have whom to question. If you're an atheist, and you just chalk it up to randomness and happenstance, that's got to be a very, very tough life. That's got to be, holy moly, where do I go from here? Please feel free to share this class. It's a pretty fundamental talk, actually. And and share it with others. You can find this class, if you wish to review it, on thechaycenter.com/academy, or on Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, wherever else you can find podcasts. God bless. We will meet again.